I'm going to back up a slide. Pour yourself in me. Beautiful. Pour yourself in me. Pour your spirit into me. This is a prayer. This is a devotional aspect, a devotional moment. We've spoken recently about being self-emptied and spirit-filled, self-emptied of the aspect of the self that believes it is separate from God, self-emptied of that when we believe that we're separate from God, we tend to be fearful. We tend to believe ourselves to be limited. We tend to believe that we are separate from everyone and everything. That's a pretty fearful place to be. But the moment that we become self-emptied of that and filled with spirit, something shifts in us. And this is what we've been talking about over the past several weeks about being realigned that we may reimagine. And so the whole process that we've already done thus far through speaking our affirmations, through our vision and mission, through our prayer, through song, has all been about being self-emptied of that self that feels separate and to step into the divine self that claims and invites spirit to have full sway with it. It requires a humility. It requires a curiosity. And in that, what we find is that all things become possible through us. And so we begin from this place to reimagine unity renaissance, to reimagine ourselves and our lives. And we've spoken recently about how the key to that is to realize and remember that each one of us has a unique, just like we have a unique fingerprint, we each have a unique soul print. And it is as if that unique soul print is the prism through which spirit uniquely extends and expresses as each one of us. And so what we do when we turn within to our divine self is that we accept and receive the uniqueness of ourselves. We stop pushing it away. We stop criticizing ourselves, and we begin to embrace who we are in spirit, what we are as Christ in potential, and then how we serve. And we've been talking about discerning and discovering our spiritual gifts. And the idea is that our purpose is and happens when we express and extend our gifts. This is something that we've posted to our site. It says your purpose is always about giving. It's always about giving, loving, and serving in some capacity. And guess what? Everybody can do that. There's not one person that cannot give and serve and love in some way right now. And so we don't need to wait for something to happen. We don't need to wait for the whole picture to dawn upon our consciousness. What's my purpose? No, we begin right where we're at with our divine identity, and we begin to give from it. And hey, it's got something to do with love. It's got something to do with peace. It's got something to do with harmony and joy. It really isn't that complicated. Isn't it just like we silly humans to complicate it all? Right? Right? So if we can keep it simple, simplicity is of spirit. Simplicity is of spirit. The complexity is of that separate self that has to make it difficult. But when we connect in spirit, our gifts become self-evident to us. And in that, we have this opportunity to actually be as God created us to be. How did God create us to be? Like unto itself. With the ability to think independent of conditions and circumstances, because we know that the world of conditions and circumstances do not have a power, that there's only one power. And that one power is our consciousness, which also means just our attention, where we place our focus. And when we place our focus upon God consciousness, then we are aligned. And it is from there that the gifts of the universe may be given through us, through the unique and divine prism, soul print that each of us is. So what I want to share with you today is that creation and expression are not the same thing. You see, we confuse that. Creation is. Creation is eternal. It's already happening. We get to choose how we express creation through our soul print. And when we are true to ourselves, to thine own self be true, to our own soul print be true, to the own unique and divine prism be true, our gifts, the gifts of the universe, the eternal gifts of love, of peace, of joy extend through us in the right imperfect ways, meeting the right imperfect need in the world. And it happens without us manipulating it, without us making it happen. It becomes an allowing, a submission, if you will, a submitting of ourselves, our personality, our entire being upon an altar of spirit, and letting spirit pour itself in us, that we may then give forth of spirit. So creation is like the seeds of the divine. And the seeds of the divine are already within each of us. And you know how it goes. We've heard this before. What's inherent in the seed is the wholeness, the fullness of what that seed is of. So you've heard in an acorn is inherent the entire oak tree. Right? And so within us is inherent the fullness of the seed of creation, the seed of love within each of us. And all we need to do is give it our full attention, our appreciation, water it like a seed, love it like you would, talk to it. You know, they say when you pray and talk to plants, they respond. I bet you might too. When you speak to yourself with love, with kindness, with encouragement, rather than with criticism. So inherent in creation is each of us, and we are here to be the points of the givingness of God's creation to our brothers and sisters, to the whole, to unity, right? And when we withhold our gifts, when we sit upon our treasures, as we talked about last week, you know, if you don't use them, you lose them. If you don't use them, you forget you have them, right? And you're sitting on a pot of gold, begging to the world to give you something you already have. So we look within to the gifts that we already have in the unique way that we are planted right here to give them, that will serve those who are in our vicinity. Creation is incomplete. God's creation, check this out. God's creation is incomplete when we're stingy with our gifts, because something's missing. And we can fulfill that. Don't you want to be that? Wouldn't it feel good? Yeah, doesn't your life purpose, now that it seems so simple, feel like something you can accomplish? Because here's the deal. In God consciousness, it's already accomplished. In God consciousness, it's already done. And we're just remembering together. We're reimagining together. We're in this experience where it feels like we're separate. It feels like, well, it feels like there's lack, doesn't it? What if I were to say to you, there is no lack of food in this world? There is no lack of food. There is no lack of resources. The only thing lacking is our individual willingness to give from the already supply, and to be the one to say, you know what, there's enough. How do I know that? Because God consciousness and my faithfulness is the substance that is actually going to extend in form to meet the need. You know how I know it here? People bring bags of groceries here. People have brought bags of groceries to feed people. People are bringing school supplies to people they don't know, little ones, that are going to receive those. Now, when somebody receives the bag of groceries, when somebody receives the gift of the school supplies, they don't know where it came from. They just know a need was met. Feels like a miracle, doesn't it? To them, it's a miracle. To each person we give our gifts to, we may not know them. We may not understand or see where our gifts land. But when we extend them, it becomes a miracle to those who receive it. Giving our gifts is essential for all. We tend to focus on ourselves. Well, I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't know what my purpose is. Yeah, you do. I just told you. It's super easy. It's super easy. It's to extend the gifts that have already been given. To extend them. So, you guys are probably familiar with this symbol, aren't you? It's the symbol of yin and yang. I heard something recently that inspired me from Eckhart Tolle, and it inspired me to put this up here. Because he was using this symbol to explain how we identify ourselves. You see, we call ourselves human beings, do we not? We say we're human beings. And one part of this circle, you can pick whichever one you think it might be, represents the human aspect. The human aspect represents form, represents the extension. It represents a manifestation of a gift. It represents how we appear in form in the world. The being part is the opposite side of that circle. Now, in our particular culture, we focus on the form and less on being. Now, anybody who's listened to me speak, I'm always talking about aligning and the being aspect. That we must be before we extend in form, before we create in form. Now, it doesn't have to happen that way, but what I found in my life is that things go much better when I start from stillness, from prayer, from aligning in God consciousness. When I get my bloated nothingness out of the way of what something needs to look like. Anybody need to get your bloated nothingness out of the way? I know I can't be the only one, right? Right? So there's a humility in the practice, but I would suggest that in our spiritual communities, that we be more about being human and focus on the being first and then do the doing. You see, there's a dot in each side, which means that inherent, if you're more focused on form, inherent in form is beingness. And inherent in beingness is extension into form. You see, there is not one without the other, but the goal is balance in this experience. And the goal in our spiritual teaching is aligning first with being and identifying as a spiritual being first, having a human experience. The shift may seem nuanced, but it shifts everything in our experience of life. It is in this way that we become the conduits for the Creator itself to extend through us. When I come to spiritual communities often, what I hear from people is a lot about what we need to do. And sometimes folks get a little impatient with me because it takes me a little while to cultivate the foundation of the basis of consciousness first, the basis of God first, the basis of keeping the main thing first. Sometimes people misconstrue that I'm not about being of assistance in the world, and nothing could be further from the truth. I just happen to believe that at this point in consciousness, at this point in our evolution, that how Eckhart Tolle put it, is that we have made ourselves sick by focusing on form and doing exclusively. And then we've misconstrued it for a power. And then we seek that power outside of ourselves. And it is manifesting now in our world, in our country, in our politics. I don't care which side you're on. It's off. It's off because it's misaligned. It is we who have the power, one individuation of spirit at a time, by anchoring first in our beingness, God first, God consciousness. God is the source and substance of everything, every perceived need. That as I rise in my awareness, giving my attention there, I understand and then I know, and it is from my faith that the works come forth. You see, we get so afraid by the scripture that says faith without works is dead, right? And we talk pray and move your feet, and I have no issue with any of that. But true faith, true faithfulness, true spiritual understanding has inherent in it, just like the seed, the right and perfect works. And our human mind can't figure it out, but God consciousness can. It is the same principle that Jesus demonstrated when he is attributed to have multiplied the fishes and the loaves for the thousands of people that came to hear him speak, that came to hear the spiritual truth. They weren't focused on how they were going to feed folks. The true food was contained within the message. The being came first. And from that came the God consciousness. Oh, well, we are human. We do need to eat a little something. That then the loaves and the fishes were multiplied to feed the masses. But Jesus always paused. So take a breath with me now. Pause. And connect it with spirit first. Looked to the Father-Mother presence as the all-substance that would supply the perceived need. And this is modeled for us that we may do the same thing. Now, in my metaphysical interpretation of this particular scripture, I actually imagine that at the very same time, all of the bakers and the fishermen in the vicinity somehow were poised in some way, and something dropped in, and they knew that they were to bring their gifts to the appointed place and time. Their gifts of what they baked their bread and how they fished in their catch to feed the masses. This is what I know for us, that in this holy instant, we're each being called in our unique way to give our gifts. Now, your true gift and your true talents are your uniqueness. And it is your uniqueness, and that is how you serve. So those things about yourself that you wanted nobody to know about, place those things upon the altar and have spirit transmute them into the gift that they were always meant to be. And that your uniqueness and your gifts and your talents, just as they are right now, may be given and serve the world. So, the next slide says, and can you not come to understand the reciprocal nature of giftedness? There's a reciprocal nature of giftedness. That what God has given only needs to be received. Stop pushing away the gifts. Stop diminishing the gifts. Receive the gift that you are. Receive the gifts that you have. Bless them. And then as we receive them, then they may be given. So the receiving comes within ourselves first. We receive first, and then we give our gifts. And this next slide, as we reimagine unity, is really important because it gives us a new definition that I've never heard before of what unity is. It says, the indivisibleness of God is simply this: the unbroken chain of giving and receiving. The unbroken chain of giving and receiving. You see, we're in the flow continuously of giving and receiving. And it is this as well that is the definition of unity. The unbroken chain of giving and receiving. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the one to stop that flow. I don't want to be the one to not give my gifts so that God's creation is somehow incomplete. And my encouragement is for you to feel that way too, that you're just so excited to receive the gifts that you've already been given, that when we give gratitude for what we have, guess what? It expands. Guess what? It becomes corrected. It becomes perfect. And it becomes the perfect gift then to extend to the world to meet the need. And so we go back to the beginning. This too then becomes a definition of unity, that your purpose is always, not just sometimes, not you're going to study really hard and then give your gifts at the end of your life. No, we're giving our gifts all the time. And it has something to do with love. And it has something to do with serving our brothers and sisters. And it is this that I place my faithfulness in as the source and the substance that serves my life and serves the world. An unbroken chain of forgiveness, my friends, is the definition of at-one-ment. At-one-ment, unity, at-one-ment, unity, at-one-ment, unity, atonement, atonement, healing. The healing of humanity, the healing such that we may be about being spiritual beings, having a human experience through our gifts and giving that we give. And as we give, we receive, and God's creation is complete. Take a breath with me here. We move into prayer and meditation here. Ah.